So today I thought we would take a look at how to repair some switches in HO scale. This should work for all scales, but in particular I'm working on HO. I acquired some switches that have definitely seen better days, so this is the process that I used to repair those. As you can see, some of the ties came loose from the rails, and obviously that makes a big problem when you're trying to keep your tracking gauge. So the first thing I do is cut the ties off that have separated from the rail. Next, I connect the floating ends of the switch to a stationary piece of track that have tacked down to the work surface. I'm going to be using a product by Clover House. They're PC board ties. They're 1/8 inch wide and 1/16 inch thick. I use thumbtacks to hold the track and the switch in place. I put some paper toweling underneath the area where I'm going to put the PC tie switches because the PC ties are actually a little bit thinner than the plastic ties that are on the track. So I want them to make good contact with the rail while I'm soldering these together. I start by applying a generous amount of flux to both the PC board and also to the rail. You don't want to use an acid core flux, you want to use a rosin based flux for this. You want to work kind of quickly so you don't wind up melting all the ties in the adjoining area to where you're working. I apply the soldering iron to the rail and a little bit of it touching the circuit board. And I want to melt the solder into the rail and into the circuit board, not into the end of the iron. Next, I'm going to check the gauge of the repair area. I'm going to use an NMRA track gauge to verify that the spacing is correct. If it's not, simply remove the track gauge, heat up both the solder joints that I have on one side of the rail, push the rail together or pull it apart slightly, and then check again. Once complete, you can see that the rails are now firmly attached as they were when you purchased them new. I'm going to show repairing several more switches. All of these are code 70 Sheena Harris switches, but this technique can be used for just about any kind of switch that's out on the market. This switch has definitely seen better days. The only ties that are left in the front section, as you can see, is just the tie bar. So this one's going to need several additional ties to repair it. Again, check the track gauge, and then you can roll a truck through if you'd just like to verify that everything is engaged and that everything is smooth operating. Next, we have to insulate the ties because right now we're tying both rails together electrically. So I just use a motor tool with a little cutoff disc to grind away some of the copper on the top of each of the circuit boards to insulate the left from the right. Here you can see the gap that I created by grinding away the copper on the top of the circuit board. And each circuit board needs to be insulated from the left rail and the right rail. On this particular switch we had to repair back behind where the closure rails are. We have to also insulate between where the closure rail would slide on that PC board to the left rail and the right rail to avoid any kind of shorts. I simply slide the closure rails one direction, run the motor tool in between the closure rail and the stock rail, and then push the closure rails the other direction and do the same on the other side. To make the circuit board material blend in more with the rest of the track, I use a product called Blackening. And you simply brush this over the PC board or anything else that's metallic that you want to turn black, and brush it on and let it sit for a couple of hours. I use Blackening to make my solder joints disappear where I connect all my feeder rails to my main line and my yards as well. This is what the ties look like after one application of the Blackening and sitting overnight. I'll continue to add more layers of the Blacken until they look the way that I want them to.